This is the regular meeting of the Environmental Commission of the Borough of Fairhaven. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular meeting on October 12th is available by call-in phone number or through Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions, comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question, comment by phone or through the Zoom raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger on January 28th, 2022. Posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Environmental Commission Secretary is directed to include this statement in the minutes of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Would you now do the roll call?
Sure. Michael DiMichelli. Here. Kelly Flanagan. I see her online.
She's probably on mute.
Yeah.
Kelly, if you're on mute, unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Got it. Christy, I heard you asking if I wanted to be a panelist or attendee. Whatever, if you want to bring me over, that's fine.
Okay, I just didn't know.
Whatever you, I'm trying to move from my phone to my computer right now, so I will probably be able to handle Zoom a little bit better on my computer. So sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. I moved you.
Thank you.
Jesse Murray. Here. Brian Olson.
Here.
Gary Patterson. Absent. Jonathan Peters.
Here.
Brian Rice. Absent. Ralph Windrum.
Here.
Councilwoman Cole. And you have a quorum.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, we need to approve the September minutes that have been distributed. I trust that you've all read them. Yes, I see heads nodding, so we'll go ahead and take a vote for approval. Is there approval of them? Anybody doesn't approve them? Lacking lack of approval, we have approval. And they are approved. Okay. Having done that, we then move into the agenda, which is generally item 6 on this schedule. Let's make sure that I'm running this from the October schedule. Yes, October, good. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is the EC budget, Environmental Commission budget. We need to develop the next year's budget. And there's some question here as to whether we would pay for the projects that we may initiate, or whether it comes out of the DPW budget. From what I've been able to ascertain, it's going to come out largely from the DPW budget or Teresa's budget or grants. So we're not going to need that kind of money. And so I'm going to propose that we have a $4,500 budget, which I think is probably quite adequate. We'll probably have some left over. And if we agree with that, if the board agrees with that, then I will bring that to Teresa's attention and she'll work it in.
How much
Does that include what green team items are we doing? Are they incorporated in our budget?
Which ones?
Is the green team incorporated in our budget?
The
And
green team should be.
if they are, is that enough money?
Well, Kelly's on the line. That would be Kelly about 2,500 for you and the green team. Do you want to comment there?
She transfer maybe?
Kelly, are you? on mute again?
I can see her speaking, but
talking, yeah.
we can't hear her. No, we can hear you. I see her lips moving.
Yeah. Your headphones or something like that, right?
Well, while we're waiting for
No,
Kelly,
we can't hear you. Sorry.
are there any other questions relevant to, yeah,
Yes, how much did we spend last year?
under 2,000?
What did we spend our money on last year?
We
Anjek dues are $475. A few green team members went to the sustainability conference. That was 152. The green team Zoom account is 150. And then we recently did the logo for the magnets and
I'm not sure of those costs yet.
the magnet was 1,500, I mean, excuse me, stickers. They're not magnets. The stickers were $1,518,
Okay.
but they were funded from a Clean Communities grant. All that came out of the EC budget was the logo issues, or I mean, they were just design.
It was $300.
The answer is going to be under 2,400.
That
Yeah.
doesn't include love where you live day expensive that I know that Michael brought up that unfortunately we're able to get in here.
Which was.
And I know Kelly knows, like, we went over a little bit, but I think we spent about $1,000 in the 40th day overall with like all of us putting money in.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, good, Kelly.
Okay, sorry, I'm on my computer now. Yeah, those, I think $2,500, if that could be allotted or earmarked for the green team, I think that would be sufficient. We are, and one thing that, that we've been looking for right now is that we have a couple of printing fees. So for instance, we're trying to do that educational campaign with anti-idling, and we're looking to order bookmarks for them. 500 bookmarks at, 50 cents a bookmark. So that, right there's $250. I know with Michael said we spent about $1,000 with Love Where You Live Day. Now, some of that was, because it was the first time doing it, but there are other things I think with speaking, the green team has done a lot of speaker fees. We get invited to the EcoFest in Rumson. We get invited to the PTA events. And there's some stuff that we would like to do that could help us as we set up for these. So for instance, like a tablecloth, we've gotten a banner, but people also said maybe doing instead of like t-shirts, but like having apron, just something that can mark that the green team. Understand too that there's a lot of like arts and crafts. A lot of people have put donations in from the team. So I do think that within that $2,500, I do think that should be, it should cover, with Love Where You Live Day is like our main event, and then another $1,500 for miscellaneous stuff. But my question is, with this moving forward, how would this cover the cost of like materials, like the rain gardens, right, at the Knollwood and other things like that? Is that to be?
The answer is that I believe things like the rain garden, which will use personnel from DPW, will be out of the DPW budget.
I can't, no, that wouldn't come out of DPW because it's not DPW doing that work.
If they do it,
They wouldn't be, the schools are involved, the kids
oh,
are
okay,
doing it,
but
so, yeah, the
the
DPW.
rain gardens over there are
Yeah.
not school board's budget.
But I think, honestly, if we do other rain gardens too, that's gonna be more community based. It's not, the DPW is not gonna be involved with that. Those are gonna be like, I think, community events to get the community involved, get kids involved. So,
Yeah.
And, but I
That
mean,
doesn't cost a whole lot.
no.
But I think
It doesn't,
Justin's
but-
right. It's something you should think about partnering
Maybe-
with other community groups.
Mhm.
But I think this discussion is so important. And I want to say that you're still early and you have a couple more meeting cycles if you want to continue to work on this. And I would encourage you to identify things you would like to accomplish. And with that in mind, identify potential.
That was our goal, right?
Yeah, that was
our assignment.
That's what we came
The
to
top.
meeting with.
Right.
So we're largely, I don't want to use this the wrong way, but administrative in the sense, our budget is printing postcards, sort of administrative things, but sorry, and then big projects would be funded elsewhere through the council or grants or wherever. Is
Well,
that-
you're actually a policy body for the most part, meaning the governing body would turn to the environmental commission for policy positions or even assessments of certain conditions, so that the governing body can allocate, manage,
Yeah.
administer. This body, I think, you know, if you were asking me as a member of council, what I think council needs from the environmental commission, we need, like the ERI that we have is so useful to me. I've been just looking at this over and over and over again. It's very helpful. Similarly, I think the next stage is to develop maybe an update to this, but then beyond that, I can see the governing body asking for a conditions assessment, meaning if we have 200 acres of open space, what currently is the condition and what are the sort of management strategies for those spaces? And that would basically be something the governing body would ask, the same way we might ask the planning board to undertake a master planning assignment, or this body might be asked to work with a professional that would be funded through the governing body, but report here with this body to develop and I see Jessie nodding. I'm sure she can elaborate a little bit more. Maybe you could speak to it a little bit more.
No, I completely agree. Honestly, I think we need to have a consultant to help update the ERI. And also I was thinking invasive species management plan. That's been a really big issue that everyone's been talking about. So I think if we have a consultant identified, ERI revisions, I can't see that being a huge uplift. It's a matter of, all right, what items do we need to update? But for an invasive species management plan, that could take a little bit more work.
Yep.
Because it's a matter of them actually assessing, getting an assessment, saying, okay, what do we have, where, and putting that together. But I think those items would need some sort of consultant.
And that would cost us.
And that would obviously.
But would that come out of our
But
budget or would that? come out of-
Consultant.
Well, at this
Consultant
point,
would come out of our budget if we had to. I wasn't anticipating we'd need it for ERI because we've done the ERI.
Yeah.
Essentially no budget for that.
Yeah, but I think it's about time. I'm looking at other ERIs that other towns have,
Mhm.
and, you know, just the robustness of them. I think we really should have one. I don't have time to write it over again and update it, so I can't commit to doing that, but I can commit to, you know, overseeing it.
yeah.
So
You did our last one.
Well,
with the invasive species like that, we would need a consultant. Also, what about with like our trees, species of trees, like that is those kind of inventories, would that come under us? Would that for the shade tree? Because just even based off of like what we did for the sustainability, like there's so much stuff we don't have compiled.
Yeah.
Or that we either don't have full assessments on them, or we do and they're not compiled, so maybe that would be
Can you
a
name one
consultant.
specific?
Sure,
Well-
the trees, the assessment of our trees, so I guess there's like.
That's
Twenty-
big.
That would be the Shade Tree Commission.
Yeah.
Okay, but like it was on our ERI, I guess like the certain types,
Yeah.
but I guess like what the
So there's
sustainability.
gonna be some overlap, but
Yeah.
that's partly the way that the planning works.
Yeah.
You can have a document that's more of an assessment of conditions borough-wide, mostly have to do with open space or
Yeah.
the relationship to the river or other waterways. Just to give examples, but the Shade Tree Commission might also have, say, their community forestry management plan and a tree inventory.
Yeah,
They will reinforce each other in the ways that they do overlap. They're not going to conflict in any way.
yeah, so I mean, like in that example though, I guess that would be like a more specific one that probably would overlap with them more, but do we do our own? Do we just work with them? Like how, I guess.
Ralph,
for
I mean,
that-
can I just say basically, historically, I think that the commission, Tracy's, I think hit the nail on the head in that it's basically been a policy-making body. And then the key thing we want to look at is it included in the appropriate budgets in the different functional areas? So in other words, if we decided there's a key aspect that should be taken care of by DPW, is that part funded through the budget? so that it's not missing, further down the road. So that's the idea. I think is to look at the different people who could be doing the functional work and make sure it's included in their budgets.
And that goes directly to what you want to accomplish. And remember, you have a green team, which is part and parcel of the Environmental Commission, which is much more on the ground. They are looking at planning events and printing materials and, to going on tour, and they have presentation boards, and it's very interpersonal, high touch type of stuff, which is the perfect kind of arm to go with a policy body that's helping to advise on more strategic decision making. So that's where their green team costs are. But when I say what you want to accomplish, it's because then, like what Jonathan was saying, that does give the governing body the opportunity to say, hey, the invasive species thing is really important, and we should consider spending the money to get the right consultant in here to give us a management plan, because it's too big for a group of volunteers to just keep going out there reading and taking down invasive species. We need a plan. So if that's on your list as a policy body, this is a priority, it's come up over and over again as a community, the Environmental Commission can say, as part of our moving forward, we'd like to see this get addressed. And then we can also take steps to understand, largely reaching out through ANJAC, they'll have some guidance and some resources for us for cost estimating. But you don't have to worry about setting aside the dollars here.
Let me ask, have you had discussions with the council on their expectations of the Environmental Commission to date?
That's a very good question, because I've been waiting for the right moment to bring this up at council.
The answer is no. Then.
Well, I give a report every meeting. But we don't have a discussion about it. So I think I don't set the agenda, but I know that this is important to the other members of council. I can't speak for them, that's not appropriate, but I can bring it up under good of the borough. But I can also convey a report from this body and seek the consensus of council, and also make a motion. So I have a few procedural pathways.
If we have expectations of doing some things, they're going to be done for our customer, which is the council, presumably. And therefore, we have to have, before we go very much further, we have to have an agreement with the council as to what they're looking to us for. Now, they've had the expectations from the planning board and the other boards for many years. They're rather modest, actually, and they've had no expectations other than the agenda that we've been looking at, which is a policy agenda only over the years. So they're going to have to, the council is going to have to change their view of what they expect for us to look forward to a budget which is larger, and that budget has to be doing things that the council is willing to support and wants.
We might have a little disconnect, and maybe so I think I hear you saying, well, if council wants us to do this, then they should ask us to do it. That's the first thing I heard you say.
No, we would have, I wouldn't say it that way. I would say if we have a joint discussion with council, and I was kind of looking for you to trigger that as our rep on council. The question is, it should be raised, what is the council looking for beyond what we've traditionally done?
I think it's an exchange of ideas, Ralph. I think it's an exchange of ideas, and I think we should be talking to each other. We all were asked to bring our 5 most important items tonight, and it could go both ways. I think the council doesn't have to instruct the commission, but the other side of it is we can reach out for guidance if we have some ideas, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think, can we just maybe go around the room to each person and just say like what exactly the things we'd like to accomplish next year, like whether it be just, obviously budgetary type things or things you'd like to see like the Environmental Commission do. I think.
So this is, I'm sorry to keep going back to this, but I'm confused a little. So it sounds like we help the council set their priorities. We give them the EC's view of what's the most important, what are the things we should be doing. But we don't organize the hydro rating. We don't do the projects. So much.
That's right.
We're supposed to,
Guidance.
give them guidance. So what are the things that we think are important? in the
Yeah.
community?
Yeah, and it's based on, and the major part of it is based off of the ERI. And that's kind of our like, governing piece of, here are all the spaces in town that are, environmentally important. How should the town be, with different projects, what should the town be concerned with? And we should be bringing that up to them and making sure that different projects in town are taking that, into account. There's, like stormwater, invasive species management, those type of issues which are identified in the ERI. That's kind of really our like guidance document. And it really should be, it's kind of how it should be moving between the both of us. Like we should be, finding out from council, here's what are things that they're looking to do. And we should be able to provide some guidance on, okay, well, here's what the environmental commission sees as important items you should be thinking about as you're planning these projects.
Okay, so these projects are separate. These are wish lists of what we think is important, separate from the budget. Correct? The
Correct.
budget- the budget is-
Right,
But I
guidance.
think it'll be part of the conversation
Yeah.
ultimately based on what.
Yeah.
I think we have to have the conversations before we decide where the budget items are.
Right. As Tracy highlighted, though, we have time. And the other thing is that this group has the time to have discussion about these issues in detail. As
Yeah.
opposed to the council that's facing a bunch of stuff every month. So this is the chance for us to have a real detailed discussion about these issues and come up with priorities, right? And also think about new ideas and think about things that should be revised.
Yeah, that's correct, John. And Tracy, I think as I said, I think I'm looking to you to open that discussion up with council, probably to schedule a meeting with one or more members of council. There has not been a good direct connect in the past. Maybe my problem, maybe council's, but when I presented, John, you remember when I brought the ERI, the last one, which was a few years ago, to council and gave each one a copy. It came in for some affirmative comments. It was nice, but one of the members said, I didn't even know you did this, one of your colleagues. And said, I said, well, maybe you want to read it. And she said she would.
There you go. That's a help right there, right? You think this is you've moved forward, Doctor.
Well,
Right? You've moved forward.
I
Really
know,
give
but
it right?
it didn't impress me at the time that council was eagerly awaiting and would be destroyed if we did not.
I think that
come in a
everybody
program.
has different. I think, Ralph, I mean, the real reality is different people have different focus. And yeah, obviously you had an opportunity to teach there, right? At the moment, Dr. Windrum. And so you give that opportunity. And obviously we want to make sure we continue to bring that forward, right? As an agenda item, as an area of consideration for the town, as part of the priorities. Tracy's got a lot of other priorities right now, right, Trace? And so that there's a lot of other things pressing on every day's agenda, everything from the chickens in town and issues of potholes and, everything that jumps up into the game. And our job is to kind of, from my perspective, keep a laser focus on this component of issues, right? There's a portfolio of stuff we worry about, but I want to keep a focus on, right?
Right.
This
Keep
is a
sharing.
very- Yeah, keep sharing. I think it's very important because you're competing for bandwidth and the attention of the governing body. But there's procedurally, there's a few opportunities for that kind of engagement. One is you're coming up on the end of the year. And I have encouraged in the past an annual report, which is a very simple thing, but it puts you on the agenda or any member of or multiple members. And it sets aside a 5 to 7 minute window where you are engaged directly with the entire governing body on the issues that are specific areas of concern for the Environmental Commission. And that gives me the opportunity, of course, to reinforce and support and advocate on behalf of the commission's work. So I would encourage the commission to do that. It does not have to be lengthy, but it is an important opportunity to kind of get their attention and set up for the following year.
Tracy, the ERI, in my thinking for next year, the ERI, which is going to be put together, probably will have a new issue to look at, and that is the open space issue that you brought up several times. Again, I don't see a whole lot, I see a lot of thinking. I see perhaps some consultant support, since we don't have a whole lot of experience in doing that. But I don't see a whole lot of budget associated with it, even though I know this discussion is driven by budget.
It would have to be deemed a priority and worthy of allocation by the governing body. That's how that would happen.
Right.
The budget wouldn't be assigned to the commission. It would be up to us together and me to, argue to make this a priority. It's gonna be a tight budget year, just
If we want-
on the horizon.
If we want to have that kind of discussion on, for example, on open space.
Yeah.
Well, we may initiate the discussion. In the final analysis, it's going to be the council asking us, after we've had discussions with them, to cover a certain amount of ground in that area and to reach certain conclusions and to deliver the guidance that the town needs. I think that may need a consultant, but the consultant may end up working for the council.
For sure.
Not for us, but with us, and come out of their budget. I'm not at all
Correct.
sure, and I think it probably would. So I'm tempted at this point to continue to look at the budget issues as we develop these things. But I think the budget will be forthcoming if we need to do something and everybody else sees that it's needed also, including the council. There won't be a problem getting the budget. I'm willing to leave the budget. I'm willing personally. I want to hear from you at $4,500.
I'm not comfortable with the number until we've heard from your commission and the green team. That's where I mean, since you said you were wanting to hear from me.
I'm sorry.
I would like to hear from the other commission members, the things that they're thinking about. And the green team, I think they need to.
I would argue the budgetary number would be reflective of what the goals are. And
Exactly.
obviously, if we suddenly said, hey, we haven't talked about our priorities yet. If we talked about our priorities and suddenly, item X came to the top. Now, obviously it's land acquisition or, invasive species mitigation, whatever it is, might have a large number associated with it, but that would be reflective of how it could fit into the budget in a number of places. I think we just have to decide if we're going to be asking for more resources for certain types of things.
And I think our goals too could really set forth, besides the town budget, we could be looking towards grants and things to help those goals. So we should be talking about what our goals are for next year. Sure, let's do it.
And we really need to have an outline. We really need to have a discussion to set that, not just our goals, but to set the agenda for the discussion with the council. We have to have that meeting first. I'm quite convinced that if we need money and it comes out of this and it wasn't in our budget, it'll either be taken care of by the council's budget or they'll give us some money as the year progresses. So I'm not too worried about the money now.
No, but I think we
I'm more
should.
worried
I
about
like having.
Actually-
Then we can actually look like what you're saying, where we would need money, where we need money for maintenance, and so I think you made the point that. To make sure that the departments that would have to execute things do have the money in their budget, so.
Let me just clarify. Generally, unless something's radically changed, Tracy, the council doesn't actually have much of a budget. It actually is out in the functional areas, it would be public works, or it would be in engineering, or, so it really wouldn't go out it wouldn't go out technically to the council. Typically, it would go to the particular area of work.
DPW.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and I would say the most anemic portion of the budget or non-existent is planning. A lot of the kind of work that this commission would want to see happen would be planning. And it's a critical step to sort of building shared understanding as to what needs to happen long-term so that you can ready the community to make an investment. Or look for revenue sources or identify the appropriate grants, as you were saying, Chelsea. So I'll just, you know, whether there's a budget for it or not, as a policy body, the council would really like to know what we consider to be priorities.
Like one of the top ones on my list is the acquisition of the park at the top of Fairhaven Road. And obviously that would be a major expenditure, but that would be also a potential for significant grant funding. So, you got to look at it with puts and takes. When you put it forward as an idea, it's more the conceptual idea. And then you talk about the particular sources of
Which
revenue
one?
that might
Next
pay
to
for that.
21.
So since you're going there, John, why don't you go with you can start with your list. So obviously you got the part, like the end of Fairhaven Road there, but what are your goals and what are things that you would like?
Yeah,
to see?
I had
Start
Hance
there.
Road. I had the parks at Hance Road and Grange, as well as the boat ramp in town. We've been waiting a long time to get those fixed and they're in terrible shape. And it certainly is something that we also got partial grant funding for. So let's see it happen. I've been waiting for a long time to see it happen. That's one. Let me just see the others. I have my list. I wrote my list. Obviously, let me get it. 'Cause I sent it along. Acquisition of 21 Fairhaven Road, obviously. Kayak access. I think it's important that we promote kayaking and access to the waterfront along the river. Stormwater management was on my list. Not really clearly defined as to what we're going to do, but obviously thinking about the different types of things we've discussed and trying to figure out how we get better quality water into the river as opposed to degraded water. And then obviously public access in general, which includes walking and biking trails, including improving access to Schweikers Pond. That was my 5.
Now, which of those do you think? Yeah, it's a good list. Which of those do you think, John, would involve putting money in the Fairhaven Environmental Commission budget?
I think we should just discuss what all the goals are first, and then I think we have some overlapping things.
This is a top-down.
No, yeah, but I think
Question.
we have to hear what everyone's goals are first, I think, before we start kind of assigning.
Let me just give you one example though, Ralph. Say that improving the trails at Schweikers Pond or in Fairhaven Fields, obviously that would be added to DPW's budget, right?
That's
Those
right.
would be by DPW, and we would say, okay, we need to make sure we have some money in there to create more trails. So that's a minor expenditure, but it would go particularly into one area of the town's.
Right, and the Hance Road is a bonded issue, and so.
That's already gotten grant too. So it's a grant
And it's
issue.
got grants, that's right.
Yeah, it's got design issues. It's got grant issues. But the other piece of it is, again, some things will be minor. In my head, minor is less than $40,000, just because major capital things, those are big numbers, but stuff in that range are more functional per year into the existing budget as opposed to something very large.
Most of these budgets, though, for all the items, I believe that are on our list, that we develop on our list, are going to end up in the operating budgets of the divisions of the borough.
No, stormwater management need a lot of money, and we have to meter it out over time, it's just.
In our budget, though.
I think I think if we keep going around with our lists, and then we'll have a list for next time, we can start kind of grouping them, have them grouped for next time, and then we can start, figuring out who can do what and where the budget can come from.
John, isn't it true that we have to get the budget in pretty darn soon? I think it's been penciled in already.
You said we had.
No.
Tracy's more on that. I wouldn't know the
Yeah.
timeline.
You're okay. You've got at least 1 or 2 more meeting cycles.
A month.
You're good.
Okay.
Do you know what the date is? Just.
There's no, it's kind of flying. I don't think the budget is actually gonna. John, this hasn't changed. The budget won't be finalized until like April. So, but for planning purposes, it's better for us to do our process and complete it before the end of the year. Do your annual report, and that way, finance committee and council hears what is most important. That way, when they're considering approving the budget, they'll be able to see, does it account for that thing? The environmental commissioner really wants to see happen.
Is someone keeping track of them?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, and everything can be in the minutes, so we'll need to.
I'm writing everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Meg, do you wanna go next?
Sure, I mean, I definitely had some of the same ones. I didn't say the parks at the end of Hanson Grange, but selfishly, I probably wouldn't mind that, just because I use those all the time, so I'll go with that.
Repeat too, because if there's a repeating things that we're all seeing,
Right,
and obviously
tally.
those are.
Yeah.
That's
That's what I'm kind of
Yeah.
doing here. So stormwater was a big one for me, partly because I live dealing with the stormwater issues. But one thing that I want to note is like the rain gardens, and I wonder if just being someone who is dealing with a lot of stormwater issues, if we can kind of open that up to the community and maybe have it where we do some kind of like people can ask if they want, they can like like a contest or something, or a workshop or something that we can train people on it. We can even, maybe that comes out of our budget where we do offer one or two of them, like a rain garden or something to get people more involved, because I don't know if the town, like, even though they've heard that I'm having these issues, I don't know if it's been identified really in that, like, the report we got last month. Like, if my area has been identified necessarily. So I think just maybe having more community involvement within our stormwater management, whatever assessment we do, and then maybe have them more involved in like what steps we take moving forward. So stormwater management is a big one for me.
But by the way, there is a substantial stormwater management plan within Rich's department,
Yes,
as you know, you all know, and it involves both the local resource,
Yeah.
water cleaning,
and the county, right?
and the county.
Yeah.
And there's a backlog of maybe 7 or 8 of those that will be done over the next 5 years. As they can afford the budgets for
And maybe that kind of goes into my next thing is like kind of communication on that. I mean, I know it's sort of a bigger picture, but like kind of communication with us and the actions that are happening. Like, I didn't know that there are 5 more projects that are up for, am I on there? I don't know, like, so how we get that information out to the public, or how the public knows they can find that information, but that might be more of a government thing, but I think maybe somehow improving our webs
What
are,
was specifically the 5 things that you're talking about?
well, he just said that.
Well,
there-
I said there are currently, there are 5, I know, basins that will be put in eventually.
You mean improved catchments? Improved-
Yes,
Yeah,
and maybe more, but 5 have been talked
so,
about.
well, typically when there's road work,
Not
that's
putting one
one
in
that's
either.
gonna get
I'm sorry.
done. Typically, if there's road work, that would be when those, the catchments, if that's what we're talking about, upgrades to stormwater.
That's what I'm saying, like, I don't think
Right.
those are not happening then, probably.
They did happen, and they happened on River Road, and a lot that happened, you know
Yes,
that.
and a lot of it has been done, so to everyone who, a lot's been improved, so I'm not saying, but I do think more can be done, and maybe more natural, like the rain gardens and helping the community understand more of that.
Mhm, mhm.
And kind of communication was another one, just communication with the borough, but understanding the projects that are being put in place, but maybe understanding them before
Yeah,
they're being
well-
executed, and then we get to review, or we review more of the projects, and then we help give them more guidance.
fully support that. That's part of the reason that Denarmagee Park was part, or Denarmagee project incorporates more than just the park. And there's a few others in the pipeline that we have plans to arrange for your agenda whenever you want that. That's an important function of the environmental commission, especially for public projects.
Yeah,
But there's also a role for the commission in reviewing private applications as well. We can identify the criteria, and actually want all applications here. It's advisory. Land use boards wouldn't be compelled to, would not consider your feedback as anything more than guidance. But again, that's that opportunity you're talking about to say, hey, there's some stormwater issues here, and although the ordinance may not address it, these are some helpful ways that you might want to consider asking the applicant to take a look at. see what happens. To me, but the trigger is your ERI. Your ERI is in place, and that's what would basically trigger applications coming to this board.
There is an annual, a list of projects roughly scheduled by, and by date, by year, that Teresa has, major projects. And she tries to fit them within a budget so as not to raise the budget each year to include them. And so they're spread out over the coming years. I think Rich or Teresa could, and would be very happy about coming in here and telling us what how they see these developing out over the next several years. They're all under our purview.
Yeah. What did you have in mind? Did you
Well, I
want?
had in mind, as a starting point, understanding what the current borough management feels will be the kinds of projects that we're talking about, that they are planning on.
Okay.
And I think either Rich or Teresa could be invited in
Okay.
and would be willing to. I would invite them, if you all think that's a good idea.
Nick might
invite
be
them
able
to
to, Nick might be able to.
November,
be a good
December
resource.
meetings.
What, I guess in the past, has there been more of a relationship or more review from the environmental commission before projects, or was there any kind of, no, okay.
No, very little. Very little.
So, oh, and so I guess that's kind of also communication with the different committees and different commissions as well. So we aren't. The stuff that we are overlapping, we can discuss, and if we're not double doing the work, and I don't know how that would work. Do we set up an annual meeting with everyone? Do we set up every 6 months or something
I
like
think
that?
Next week is the environmental roundtable discussion where the chair of each commission was invited, Ralph and Brian, Tracy, who else is attending? They invited Shade Tree National Advisory. No, it was just something that Ralph and Brian initiated to have input from other commissions for the ERI.
So this isn't gonna be, this is not a public meeting, this is just a,
Okay,
well, then none of your commission members will be attending, it sounds like.
welcome to attend.
I don't think so. If you have a quorum,
Yeah.
then you need to advertise. I would encourage you to consider,
You can have up to
format.
3. So
Um,
up to
but
3.
Christy, I'm attending as well too, so if that might be a quorum issue
Quorum is 4. So you
Okay.
would be fine.
from on part of the green team.
Right, you're,
I think that's great. It's a good start for sure. Just make sure, I guess, that information gets to us so we know what's
Right, we'll feed it back.
invasives. Invasives are a big one. I think we'll all probably have a bunch of stuff on that. Invasive mitigation, but also how we're maintaining moving forward once we do mitigate the issue. I think that's kind of the big thing on a lot of our projects too. Just, I know a lot of projects have kind of been pushed off for years, so making sure we're caught up maintaining things and then for getting things up to better speed and then maintaining them better. And then I think that was it. This is a random one, but I have a dog and I wouldn't mind there being better spaces for dogs in this. I would love to have a dog park. I've already talked to people that it's just random and I'm not sure that would be through this group, but I think that a dog park would be awesome. And I'm happy to be part of. So,
If some of you remember, 3.5 years ago, John, maybe 4, we talked about the Grange and Hants Road parks, and as if they were going to happen in the following year. Well, it's 4 years later, 3.5 years later, and nothing's happened, and that is just typical of the town. The town is budget limited, wants to be budget limited, keep the budget flat. And what can be fitted in is fitted in, and if it's not fitted in, it goes into the next year. There is not a plan at this point driven by, I want this project done by this point in time. there's a plan, I want this project done, it'll be done when the money becomes available. That's the way it's been running for decades. We're gonna be changing a lot of things, Tracy, if we do some of these things, and they may get some pushback.
Well, no better time to start than now.
That's right,
All right.
but I just warning that,
Do you want to
window
see
for our eyes open.
the pocket parks, the same way you did a Genarmity session? Do you want to do a pocket parks?
I'm sorry, what?
Session?
What-
Well, they're drawings. They're not renderings. They're not very visual, but there are drawing, they're plans, they're engineering. They're engineered drawings. But Nick or Rich, probably Rich, depending on availability, because I think either one of them can speak to both of those. But that is, yeah, that should come to this body
Yes.
for your, you know, as the environmental commission to speak to the environmental, hello, Mayor. To speak to the environmental concerns that might be related to both this park, so.
Let's
Very
have a
modest.
perfect example, I think. So, yeah.
They're very modest plans.
No, but even if we have a special session. to
Sure.
Go over that, we should definitely be doing that, just like we did with the discussion last time on the living shoreline. So if we have, you know, special things like that, we should all be reviewing and having particular members, we should be doing that.
Well,
So,
let me take some action items then.
Okay.
For having a discussion of the pocket parks. Would you like to have it in the, if we can, at the November meeting or the December meeting?
That's entirely up to this commission. Whenever you choose.
I will try to get it the earliest date. Nick, I think knows, from the discussions I've had, Nick knows at least as much as Rich.
I would agree with you. I think either one, and it's good to have two, just in case, you know, one is not available then.
Right,
I'm wondering too, that since we're still having these conversations on, what we'd like to see our goals and, you know, priorities and budget wise, I'm wondering if maybe we should just focus on that the rest of this year.
we can't do it independently of knowing what's happening.
No,
elsewhere.
but I mean, maybe having a special meeting that's aside for that
Okay,
too.
let's
Like
do
having
that.
something, an extra meeting to specifically go over that. So we're still doing our priorities and then having that as well. But I think that's something we definitely should be, we should have a meeting about that. for all
Maybe in the
three.
January timeframe?
I mean, it's either January or, you know, within the next couple months, like any, you know, but just, I don't think we should be kind of putting one of our full meetings aside just to do that. I think if we can add another one on. See what our availability is, if there's a day that works for everyone.
And I think you'll want to make sure that that gets properly advertised in this because members of the public
Exactly.
will probably want to be, and certainly members of the green team
Yeah.
will want to
Right.
learn about it, so.
Oh, I know they want.
So, Christie, I think if you could schedule that meeting in I'm hearing the November, December timeframe. And not after our December.
What do you think
16th.
availability is of folks to just, you know, that are gonna be presenting and then maybe get a couple dates together and see what works.
Evening.
Yeah, in the evening.
Evening, 7:30 of an evening,
Sounds
and
like they're like looking at Nick. Yeah, yeah.
if you could do that, we'll schedule out before December 16th.
Yeah,
This
so,
is our
yeah, I
last
think we should definitely get it done before we should
Yeah.
have. Okay, going back to priorities, Kelly, do you wanna give your list?
Sure, I'll go ahead. I think a lot of this stuff that has already been talked about is on my list too. But I think, you know, top up on there too is habitat restoration. And I think this also includes like the living shorelines and the pocket parks that kind of need to be looked at more from an environmentally critically, like, you know, point of view and sustainability in terms of like natural landscapes, but also the invasive problem as well. So like anything like Harding Sanctuary or Fairhaven Natural Fields, where we have these invasive problems, again, this like mitigation plan and then a plan going forward. But I think a part of this, a critical part too, is also education, right? Education to the local residents about this, what they can do and bring home to their own homes and yards, but also an understanding of why this is a priority for us, right? I think green spaces, that's one of the real draws to Fairhaven, right? Is the having these natural areas and the kayaking access and the access to the river. I think it's really important, and the Schwenker Pond and McCarter Pond. But I also think some upkeep in it, and something that the green team has been really trying to get and ask from the borough is allowing us to build some of these pollinator pathways, revamp more native plantings, more pollinators, to support some of our local wildlife. And again, I think this is also really important to educate people about that, right? And I think it fits into a larger theme of where we want to see our town and what's best, for our environment, built and natural. Another thing, third thing, is stormwater retention. Obviously, that's a big thing, being a coastal town and being so close to on the river. And I think with this stormwater, that also includes, like you mentioned, the rain gardens, giving workshops on how to do rain gardens, almost kind of having like a rain garden task force. We could go help and have a day. But I think this is also important for the borough to get behind, right? So yes, we do have one on Borough Hall, but I do think, like, why not have them sporadically on all public lands, right? And why don't we have more native plantings and just be having the borough be kind of like if this is what our priorities are, let's lead by example, right? And using it as like a teaching point and actually being part of the change that we want to see happening. And that also means, and this is something, the whole East Environmental Council being review of projects, both public space, or commercial, residential, I think it's really important for us to kind of be like, hey, great, you're doing some stormwater retention, awesome. Or you can do more, or permeable pavement, or non, like concrete idea, like just different things. And I think this was something that the green team asked for an audience at the start of the police department and the DPW. We had to ask for it, and we were granted for it once. But I think that these plans, these big projects, should come to the EC to kind of get our our viewpoints and feedback. Because I think that it's extremely important. And if you're cutting down trees, make sure you replace them with native trees and different things like that. But this idea too, or importance is like, and it's related to, hold on 1 second, is green infrastructure. How can we get our town up to today's needs, right? So energy, like electric vehicle charging and infrastructure being what solar, could we look into? Obviously, we're very storm heavy. How can we eliminate and be a little bit more energy, having different types of energy sources, renewable, but also just energy audits of our existing borough hall, buildings and everything too, and just kind of, seeing where we can be a little bit, reduce our carbon footprint and just, have it be part of our, planning going forward. So that's it.
Some of these discussions, of course, that I'm listening to them, have to look to the state for leadership in areas like power sources and clean power sources and the like. They have to be part of the state plan. They can't even be part of the county plan.
Well, I know that there is a lot of funding for it, for a lot of this electric vehicle and charging stations, and there's a big push for that. I know Councilman McHugh and I looked into a lot of this stuff. We also tried to get that into as a priority for for the DPW as well, but I don't know where that project is or what, but I'm saying that this, when we're thinking about long-term planning and planning for the borough, and I think that's why maybe having that brought to the EC to be like, hey, have you thought about this? Or we can help you find some available funding sources or what type of grants are out there, because believe me, there's a whole bunch that come through Sustainable Jersey, but there's a whole bunch on the state that's available. And if it's not a priority for the planning or zoning or the, facilities committee, then maybe it's something that's overlooked until it's too late in the planning product, you know, and the architect's already doing it and that's all this money. And I just think maybe being involved in some of these discussions up front will be better suited down the line and, you know, will save money and save, you know, resource down the line. I think it would just be a valuable discussion. It should be something that's automatically included, you know, as like a no-brainer. Let's get their opinion in the, you know, from the beginning. Not saying that they have to take it, but just as, you know, here's how we look at it as an environmental commission. And this is our viewpoint and, you know, here's some of our priorities.
Right, I think that's what you can do, and that is your role.
That made me think of something just in terms of native plants. I don't remember on the ER, do we have like a list of native plant? Like, is that a resource we could
Shade trees.
offer to?
I
Or
think,
is that
I think
more shade trees?
I think there's a list, but I mean, again, it could be updated.
Yeah.
So
Shade
And-
trees are
They are, okay.
trees.
You know, a lot of these things too, you know, correspond and relate to some of these other commissions. And I think that that's why it's important having that open communication for sure, because strength in numbers, you know, working together, totally community vibe. But I also see it, and maybe this is from the green team, but I do see the role, if the green team's, you know, the stem off of the environmental commission as this education branch too, right? And I think we would get more community support and buy-in, you know, with a lot of this education as well. And whether it's not just at the school level, but, you know, educating residents, you know, and bringing people in, like we've done the composting workshops and doing the rain garden workshops, you know, some outdoor classroom kind of stuff. So I think that that's a priority on speaking from the green team, and then just, you know, my own personal background in education and the importance of that.
It's an amazing lack of guidance from the state. It occurred to me when I was reading material that talked about some of the planning going on in legislative committees on power, future power plants to be used by the state, clean power. How are we going to support the charging stations? We just don't have the infrastructure to deliver the power to the charging stations. They're a huge thing. And, you know, when the state's thinking is at that level, and is at the very beginning of discussions, we can offer inputs into it. But we have to wait and find out where they're going and what time frame at the state level.
But that doesn't prevent this body from formulating policy positions and setting up priorities for itself.
It doesn't, it'll have limited
It
effect.
doesn't mean it's necessarily the governing body will adopt it either, but it'll give them, you know, the governing body is not spending 2 hours discussing these things. That is your role, and that is really a key function of why you were formed, so that you can send those thoughts to.
We'll be better educated, we'll understand the issues better, and that's in its own right a good thing to do. But I don't think we're gonna change the direction the state eventually goes, and we gotta track that carefully to understand where our place is.
Kelly, if that was your list, then
That was that. Yep.
Brian.
Thank
go to
you.
Me, okay. So from what I'm hearing, if our charge is to give priorities to the governing body, I would like professional help to help set those priorities. So my number one would be conditions assessment. Number two would be an invasive species plan. Number three, I'm not sure how to word it, but we lose power here a lot. And something I put down electric grid reliability. Some of it is not us, it's the utility. But is there something that we could study, like don't plant trees under the power lines, because in 20 years it's going to cause a problem, something like that. So some sort of study or plan on that.
Third party investigation.
Yes.
of the infrastructure. You want to transform.
That's a better way to
Yeah.
say it. And then two sort of oddball things. On the DeNormandy project, I talked with Jim at the Fairhaven Yacht Works, and we talked about the plan. He loved that the parking was there because people use his lot. And then he brought up something, he said, people throw their dog waste in his garbage cans, and he loves dogs, so he's cool with it. But I think being a good neighbor would be to put garbage cans in that project. And then he mentioned something that I wasn't aware of. He said that part of his settlement, which I don't know anything about, with the town is he had to give over $20,000 for rain gardens. So there is, yeah, I thought that might be a surprise.
It is.
Yeah, so he-
Total.
For
It's-
the de Normandy.
for the de Normandy
Yeah.
thing. So there's some money, it sounds like that have been, at least that's what I was told, earmarked for rain gardens, which I think is great. And I also add storm management.
What, 20 grand, you can do quite a great.
He said bank stabilization and rain gardens, so maybe it's a little broader. But there is, it sounds like there's some money there for that.
And a little bit more, but I'll give that to you later. Jesse, did you want to yours?
Yeah, no, I mean, I honestly have been pretty much overlapping with what everyone's been saying. Obviously, I kind of started things with, getting some sort of consultant because to update the ERI, have an invasive species management plan, so then we can eventually start working with everyone to kind of address that issue. I think we need a good website, because again, it's, people don't know about the ERI, people don't know what's going on, links to the green team. I think having a good website, I mean, I've seen other environmental commissions that have these great websites with links to different sources, recommendations, native plants, rain gardens, like all this information that's like really, that we're trying to disseminate for educational purposes, and having a website that's linked, from the town, I think that's super important to have. So that was on my list. Stormwater management too, with the rain garden, the storm X that I know Brian was looking into, anything with the outfalls. So that's obviously a main theme. Our living shoreline projects, just the habitat restoration, I know that Kelly's mentioned, on all of our shorelines. That's definitely a number, like a big priority. And then communication, I think that's huge. I think besides, we should be, since we have our ERI, we should, and we have, you're the planning board, right? Yeah. Since we have a planning board member, we should be having, that should be part of our agenda. You should be telling us about, here's some projects. What are your comments I can bring back?
Yes.
We should be
That'd
able
be
to
great.
review
Yeah.
some of these projects that are coming through to provide our guidance that we can give to Brian to bring back to the planning board. That's what we should be doing. So having that type of communication, we should be having communications too with, whether it be quarterly with DPW, the educators, all the different environmental groups that are in town. So we are all on the same page, all projects are going on. We can provide guidance through, from everybody. That type of communication, I think, is something that really has been lacking. So we don't know what's going on. So I think having that is key, because then we can honestly work a lot. We can work together so much better and help to provide better recommendations to the council.
Yeah.
For what we're all looking to do, because if we all have the same priorities and we don't even know about it. I mean, there's strength in numbers, so if, we could be doing that. So those are really kind of, again, hitting on the same things that everyone's been saying, but those are the things I would like to see for next year and moving forward.
Tell me, does the planning board have a set of goals?
So what?
Does the planning board have a set of goals for the year?
Not that I know
I don't think so.
of. We have a master plan.
It's a very different.
It's
Master
different.
plan.
It's more transactional.
Yeah.
Somebody's
Right.
coming to us,
Yeah.
they want to do something. And then we run it through the
There
rules.
would, there is a similarity which I'll touch on, which is, in the same way that the governing body said they want to, look to a master plan update. The way they would do that is that they would instruct the planning board to secure the necessary professional, the council would secure those professionals. And those professionals would work directly with the planning board and maybe an expanded subset of volunteers, residents, to undertake that process, which would include robust public participation. But the professional would come back repeatedly to the planning board until they were ready to engage council. But that's similar to the kind of planning work that the ERI update would be, or an invasive species management plan would be, or any kind of general conditions assessment plan, that professional, should that be considered a priority by the governing body, that professional would be retained to work directly with this body to advance and prepare those plans. And the public, and anyone who wanted to participate, because you are a public body.
Yeah, we use the professionals a lot on the planning board. You know, they're telling us if this is compliant or not, and we're not experts.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
those are largely tactical issues, I think.
It's transaction, yeah. it's
Transaction.
Project by project.
Yeah, right.
But there is an overarching master plan.
I have two things I forgot. It's more about like garbage maintenance and stuff, but at the, has anyone seen the garbage cans in Red Bank that they have? They're like solar power and they crunch the garbage now. So these more advanced, I took a picture, my phone is not here, but I'll send it all to you all. So they're, I feel like the garbage always comes out of our, especially on the fields, it's like always kind of overflowing. I was at an event, I can't remember where I was, but there were like tons of garbage cans, but like no recycling cans. And I feel like we would be a little bit better about how we're collecting garbage, and the specific garbage cans we're using in Red Bank. I'm assuming they're pretty expensive, but they are like somehow controlled by the sun, and also they like crunch and compact the garbage. I will send a picture. But on that topic also, compost. I wouldn't mind addressing more of the composting issues within town, and maybe try to make us more of like a compost town, like make it actually part of our processes that our town offers, or something, but I think we can definitely do more with compost.
They need a much more aggressive approach than we've tried.
Doesn't mean
Nobody's
it
shown
can't be
any
ha-
interest.
Not, well, we have more
No.
people though. The green team's on it, like,
Well, they are now, but I mean, in
Yeah.
years past, we've tried to get compost.
yeah.
And we tried 4 or 5 years ago to have them
Hmm.
sold by the hardware store. in
Yeah.
town. Nobody will.
According to your ERI, there used to be a compost at the community garden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
But we've also talked about, with the double pickup of trash pickup offered in the summertime, if depending on the price of that, would people even, who knows, and maybe do a pilot program, but depending on how much people could actually give as food waste, would you swap that double trash for like a compost pickup, right? We've talked to like Unwaste, which is a pickup service, or even DPW, but it's just something to kind of look into. But on
You're suggesting the cost of trash pickup would be reducing.
right, because it's tonnage, right? And so I know for me, I've calculated I probably compost about 15 pounds of food waste. And that's just the organic, like the food waste that I put into my composting bin. But on some of these commercial composting services, they'll take any type of food scraps, like the meats and the bones and the eggs and everything else that I can't put into my home composting waste. But perhaps the tonnage saved of reducing the trash pickup, right, could actually go towards a residential composting service, if, and that could be something looked at. But related to Michael, the trash problem, I know even since I've been on the Environmental Commission, litter has always been kind of a problem, especially at the community center, Fairhaven Fields. But the types and receptacles of trash is definitely a part of it. I think also education is a part of it. But this has been brought up by the public too in some of our meetings, is that there are no recycling bins in downtown in the main. And so that's a huge part of it too.
yeah,
And there are none in the parks, including the ends of Grange and Hance, in spite of their being asked for a year. We've asked for,
and garbage cans there, because I was in my dog poop to that point of like,
that's our garbage cans,
yeah.
that's all.
Oh, I don't do it on yours.
And
I promise.
I'm perfectly
I
willing.
hold it the whole way.
Hey, I'm perfectly willing to have it done. Keep it off the streets. I pick up that street every week. I pick up trash.
Oh,
So,
I want to tell you guys about a little thing. It's very short. I was in Savannah, city of Savannah, and they have these beautiful, simple, everyone has a dog there. I don't know what it is. It's amazing. It's a lot like Fairhaven. A lot of people have dogs there. But they're along the sidewalks, and everywhere you go, there are lids with a foot pedal. And when you put your foot on the pedal, you open it and that's where the dog waste goes. And it's out of sight, it's flush, you don't even see it until you're looking for something. And it's cleaned out with the trash pickup. The city does the trash pickup and they clean that up. We don't actually have that, but it's something to think about because it's really out of sight. They're conveniently located. They're small enough where you can do many of them. So they could be everywhere that people walk their dogs, or at least enough locations. I thought it might transfer very well to Fairhaven, so. I know a lot.
Dog waste bins, yes.
We have to get moving because we have not hit. the
This was
first
a very
item.
good discussion.
We've had an excellent discussion.
And
I think I can leave 4,500 as a nominal figure at this point. It wasn't too far off, but we will construct a new figure over the next month and a half
Yeah. that's good.
as we have these discussions. And we can expect to modify that figure in the Senate.
Yeah, no,
Sound reasonable?
yeah, no, I think Christy can have a good list pulled together for us for next time, so we can kind of see what the priority items are. Definitely seeing who goes where, you know, what can be maybe budgeted towards the different departments and whatnot, and even just for us, you know, grant purpose wise and everything else. So, no, I think this is really great. Thanks, everyone. for your
Okay.
contribution.
Moving along then, from item A to 6B, which is the Kelly, the Sustainable New Jersey.
Sure. So I'll give you an update. We have submitted our second round for the application. We received and were awarded 315 points. Because we were so close to the 350, they asked us to review and edit some of the remaining actions. And this was last Thursday. They asked us to do it by tomorrow, by next Thursday. If we can get the 350 points, then we will be recognized and awarded as silver status for this.
We're so close. We gotta do it, Chris.
Believe
We gotta
me,
do it,
We,
Kelly.
I know,
I'll help
we've
you.
got it, Ralph. We have a phenomenal group of women and men on the green team that have helped us. Countless volunteers. I was on the phone with Betty Amber like last night for an hour from 8 to 9 o'clock. And again, today, we've got the support of Mayor Halpern and Tracy, Councilwoman Cole and Christy, and it's been great. We've had a lot of support. I do believe we should be fine getting it. I hope we have everything. So fingers crossed, we will have it and it will be awarded. So we will send it all in tomorrow. We look in great shape. And it's really important because if we don't get it in, we can still obviously do all the edits by the November 20th. But the problem is we don't get awarded. We get recognized as bronze this year, and it's not until next year that we get awarded the silver. And so we don't want to miss this media chance. We don't want to miss like the big announcement. So this is a big push. We're so close to the finish line, and thankfully, with all the help, even, Chief McGovern and everybody else has been really helpful trying to pull this stuff together. So I think we'll fill that donut hole, Ralph, of all the surrounding peninsula towns that have silver. We're going to be joining right along with them.
You will.
Which is a huge accomplishment, a huge weight off our shoulders. Luckily, this application is only once every 3 years, thank God, because there's a lot of countless hours have gone into it.
You have a big party, Kelly.
Yeah, silver party, right? Yeah.
Kelly, you've got the thanks of not only this commission, but of council, the mayor, and everybody else. You've done a great job.
I have to tell you, the mayor actually took this up and pushed it over the finish line at Borough Hall the other day with Betty Ann and Teresa and the chief. And I only know that because I did something and Kelly called me to say, no, wait, we need this and that. And I said, oh, okay. And then I called over there to see to it. And the mayor was already on it. So it's a lot of effort, and I have to say, it was maybe harder than it needed to be. So we should examine that in 3 years from now. But
Luckily,
let's have a party.
Yes.
Right. Well, you know what, Tracy, I do think that if our priorities get met and we have more open communication, I don't think it will be nearly as difficult. I think that's a big part of it. Knowing who to connect and the communication, which made things much more time consuming than it should have been. But yes,
Mayor?
I just want to say, I really appreciate those kind words, but I might have put it over the finish line. That's like a 0.5% of all the work. So I just want to throw it out there. It's all you that made this happen. So.
I mean, Kelly and Stephanie killed it. They worked so many hours, and what I'm so impressed with, now I'm in like the middle, but they killed it. And it's so many different categories that we touched upon too. It's like in every single aspect of our lives here in Fairhaven. So I just want to thank them. It's really amazing. I'm really proud of being on.
thanks, guys. Well, it was a team effort for sure. So we've got a good team in Fairhaven here. Let's keep it going, right? So that is Sustainable New Jersey. Hopefully that will, we'll be recognized for that shortly thereafter. In other news for the green team, we are getting the anti-idling signs that the borough paid for. So this is another budgetary item, but the borough graciously paid for it. One for Knollwood, one for Sickles. They should be put into the ground on this Friday. So that's great. I know, speaking with the Knollwood green team and the schools, they wanted to do some sort of ribbon cutting ceremony. Just to kind of bring awareness and education and, to the residents and students and staff, especially when there are at these hubs of idling, areas around the schools. We are asking for the EC to give, if you would support or allow or approve of our budgetary item, because one part of this anti-idling obviously is the education campaign that goes with it. So we have created these bookmarks that says we care about clean air and some facts on the back of why idling, can be harmful to children or to health, human health, to the environment, and also it saves money when you don't idle. So, and where to find out more information. So we have those bookmarks. We're looking to print 500 of them and, divvy them up between Sickles and Knollwood libraries and also the Fairhaven Public Library. So we're looking about $250 to $260, dollars or so.
I'll make sure you get the money, okay? Personally,
Perfect. Thank you, Rob.
not my money, but I mean, I'll make sure you get it.
Sure.
Kelly, just call and we can.
Great.
work on that.
Thank you.
One other thing, for some reason, Teresa's name was left off a copy two list on a recent budget, on a recent memo about the signs that were going to be installed. I got it put on. You might, Christie, you might look at that in the future. It's just an oversight, but we need Teresa very badly to support all these things. So we want to, keep her on top.
Sure.
Okay.
Teresa was the one that she was the one that said that those signs are approved for. She put me in touch with Jim O'Brien. So she was extremely helpful with this whole thing and, approved the signs, very easily for us. So she was very helpful with this as well. Sure. So, and then, obviously if we're talking about, I'm working with the schools, talking about ribbon cutting ceremony, I also mentioned it to Mayor Halpern as well, be just great to kind of see the school and town together, and this is like a joint effort, obviously, for everyone in the community as well. So we'll let you know what we find out about that. And Betty Ann said she would put it in the blast, the email blast to residents as well.
The buzz.
Catch the buzz. I know you can't see, I'm not here, but the recycling stickers have been in and received. And thank you, Christy, for your help with finalizing that and the order. So I think one of the other things that we have up for discussion is how to disseminate these. I know, Tracy, you had some ideas with maybe Shade Tree, kind of combining efforts, but we have about 2,500 of these recycling stickers in my house, and I'm looking to get rid of them, get them out the door
Heavy.
as soon as we can. So if anyone has any ideas about that. And then another business from the green team, we started a green business recognition pilot program, where we just recognize and promote, businesses that are in town that are also doing a little bit sustainable, that are practicing sustainability in their business as well, which I think is really important, because sometimes when I think about sustainability and issues, we think about just the public borough part and then the residents, but not the businesses, which is, a part of who Fairhaven is. So Green Lines and Canyon Pass were both two ones that piloted with us. We are looking to continue to build this partnership with the Business Association, looking to, work with more businesses as well. So we just put that up on our social media, which was also a part of the Sustainable Jersey Action. But just to, again, build this community of partners, among us. So that's about it.
So what I can tell you about the Shade Tree Commission is that they're envisioning their thing being a door, it's gonna hang on a door, not go in the mail or be dropped in mailboxes by hand or anything like that. It's a door hanger. And I threw out the idea of a shared mailing. I think initially they didn't think that would be a good, because they don't want their piece to just look like a junk mail thing. They don't want it to get inadvertently or tossed in a trash can, which I get where they're coming from. So what I can share is they don't yet know how they're going to do it, but their intention, and Christy, back to clarify from this, I believe their intention is to try to distribute them by hand. That's what I took away from that conversation.
I believe they'd like to, but they don't have a plan yet, and they are not ordered yet.
So
If
just
you-
FYI,
They're still in the design phase.
No, I looked into that. That was one of the things I explored with Betty Ann. There's a few things, the borough mails, but it's not sealed there. You can't slip something in without potentially losing it. So here's the thing though, if say for example, the environmental commission decided they wanted to mail these to all the houses, the cost of a bulk mailer is not that much. So I forgot, I don't have that. It's like 500 pieces at maybe $160. So multiply that times 5, it's still within reach. I think you could probably afford to do that. The weight of
I was gonna say the stickers are heavy.
is gonna impact it a little, so, but it shouldn't. Anyway, that might be worth exploring, because of course you want to get them out. I don't also know how you would make sure that it doesn't look like something people should throw out, since a shade tree had that concern.
Junk mail, by the way, and that's the way it would go out, as junk
As a
mail.
bulk mail,
And if it goes out as bulk mail, a lot of people just siphon it right into the waste bin, never open.
Stephanie, Adam, she just texted me and she had a good point. I wonder, could you put just a stamp or post it like an address on the back? Not even need an envelope and just send as like a postcard? A large postcard?
I don't know. That'd be like a trip to the postmaster with the.
Sure, I'll,
At the
right,
Post office, there's a postmaster there.
okay.
And you have to go to Redfin.
Yeah, but that's certainly worth checking into. What do we have on the back? I can picture the front.
It's nothing, it's just it's the back.
Oh, really?
So you can really put someone's address on there with a stamp and then.
What kind of material is it?
Yeah,
It's not
material.
paper, it's like.
It's paper on the back. It's just a sticker on the front. They're not like a really kind of like, it's not a magnet, so it's not thick. It's just an ordinary sticker. And then it's just the back is just regular paper.
Does the green team have assigned
Like a
a
little.
group of people to come up with a plan?
Yeah, I mean, we could figure I know Derma Dreams coming up. I mean, would we be opposed to kind of having these even like a stack at the library? I mean, we want these delivered to people's doors, right? Or no? Or would it be more
I think you
passive?
have to,
Okay,
and as a distinguished piece of mail, not, I'm afraid, as a bulk piece of mail, I figure the cost out of a bulk piece of mail to 2,000 houses And, yes, it's not that expensive.
What do you think, if it showed up and you didn't take the time to review it, like, if it just showed up as a large postcard? You think people would dump it in the trash?
I think so.
Maybe,
Yeah.
could we on the sticker on the back somehow do something like, please keep a review, and then there's gotta be a way we could do something on. Like if we're printing out labels, we could probably print out some kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think we could
disclaimer
kind
or
of,
like.
yeah, do something creative.
Is the instruction to stick it on your can? Is that what you discussed with DBW that's allowed to stick them on the can?
Yeah, to either stick it on the can, or you can, the thought was not everybody has a magnet, right? Or uses a magnet. So here you can put it on your can, you can post it on a bulletin board in your kitchen, you can put it on your fridge if it takes them, you know, as a magnet, whatever, but it's just more versatile than a magnet.
I think we have to look, really to your group that you have designing this plan and evaluate it, maybe preferably at the next, our next meeting, if you feel you could get a recommendation.
Well, can she spend some money? You
Pardon me?
know, this
Why
might
don't,
cost
why
some
get a
money.
cost, why don't you get a cost together for mailing it out, so that we can see what it is? And if we have the money, which we should, then why don't we?
The labels would cost something. Labels aren't that cheap.
Yeah, I did a cost estimate of mailing it out,
You don't like the label idea.
and it was,
Should I like that? Are you worried about?
No, no, no.
Oh, no, I just, I
$540
don't know what that
postage
is,
and,
like. one of the
Who is
tables
it
go out.
it ended up being $1,200.
You know, we could also ask the Norwood Green Team.
I don't know what is that.
Would it be the same as those you would like mail them postcard though?
Oh.
But
and
you
label.
know who we could go to for
And then go,
realtors, they have them all.
Somebody.
Yeah.
Kelly, we were just talking about getting the actual mailing addresses. That was Christie's thought that no one, we don't have.
Newsletters, but like, I know that I still get it, they're folded up and with, you know, they're stickered on the side. So you have to like,
There are.
that.
Kelly, my only concern is,
Only 5 has to.
do you think that the stickers would come up in the mail, like? Get stuck on things?
Yes, I know, like,
Do you know what I mean? You know how sometimes like if,
Right.
where some of the back label would come off and they would get stuck to things.
I don't think so, but yeah, I don't think so. I mean, we can talk about this more and move on to other things, and we can just,
Yeah.
you know, come back and even, you know, figure something out. You know, utilizing Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Derma Dreams, what, I don't know, Norwood Green Team, boots on the ground, right? Perhaps even just, I don't know.
Well, there's.
we could
26
start
around the
using
road,
some of the.
Their block packing system.
Right, I mean,
That's
right.
what I was
after the block
thinking, like,
packet.
and if Shade Tree's doing something, maybe we could pair together. They're thinking about
Possibility.
literally having people walk.
I mean,
down.
as
Uh,
Mayor
this-
Howard, how long it took him to reach every door?
The borough can
Takes a
do,
while.
the borough can help us by putting, when they send out, you know, the newsletter and things like that and online. They can tell people to look for these coming,
Sure.
however, whatever your plan is. And let's build up some excitement in the borough among the
That's fine.
population.
I said.
Let's build up some excitement and
Your
have
recycle-
at least a couple of notices before we send them out. So that people are looking
Yeah.
for
So
them
they're expecting.
and know what it's all about.
yeah.
I mean, what about disseminating them at school to kids, bringing them home to their backpacks?
Absolutely, we could absolutely do that.
That's
but
like
you-
2/3 of the community right there,
Right, but then you don't know which 1/3 you didn't serve.
right? And you don't know the
And some of the kids are.
The
getting-
double kids,
Yeah.
yeah, right, I get it.
You've got that and you've got a lot of people like ourselves with no kids at school.
Do you think people would object if they brought their recycle can in at the end of the day and there was a sticker on it?
How could they, it's a can, like,
That's what I.
that's what Brian said like years ago about like, when we were talking about the stickers, like just have someone slap them on the cans and they're out, like.
I'm wondering if that,
2,000 cans in a day.
Well, you know what? Part of our recycling education is that we have to inspect people's recycling and make sure that there's no bags and other things that's happening. And I don't think we've ever, not since I've been on the EC, we've ever looked at, you know, or given people like, not citations, but like warnings, like, remember, don't use a bag or, you know, it could be kind of like a larger
Now they don't.
project. But
But Kelly, do you think that residents would object to who put this sticker on the can if
No,
I mean, it's showing you exactly
Not
what
their
you're doing
can.
in there, and now
Right.
people have the cans in their house, it's not a decorative thing. it's-
pretty.
Right.
Yeah, it's like,
okay, I was just getting.
Yeah,
doing a
no, I
fact check
mean-
On that, because.
yeah.
I mean, some
do.
maybe someone's gonna. but-
Yeah.
Yes, someone.
But if they don't like it, then peel it off. It's so. Let's be
But you know, the
honest.
problem is though, Tracy, like I would find this, I would be more helpful having this in my kitchen, right? Before I
Yeah.
take it out, so that I know, oh yeah, I could do toothpaste, right? Toothpaste could goes in
Yeah.
there. Rather
Okay.
than, you know,
I mean, maybe some of this blast could be maybe on the cans, or maybe, you know, honestly too, maybe in the blast, it says, hey, if you'd also like to pick one up for inside of your house, come pick it up at the library or something.
Yeah,
So like, put it on all the cans, but if someone wants it like in their kitchen too,
yeah,
go come pick it up.
yeah.
okay, we're gonna have to
Right, move on.
But it's so
Um,
cool and
and-
great that the stickers are in. I know they
Yeah,
worked
so-
all year on this.
yeah, and you'll notice that we have the revised Borough logo, the up, you know, and on it as well. It looks really good. It looks good. They did a very good job.
Okay, we're gonna have to move on, and I'm gonna look to you folks to bring us a plan as to how you want to proceed, and we'll get the resources for you.
And bring some stickers to the next meeting so we can all get one.
I will. I apologize for not being
And,
there.
and to the council too, so everyone
Yeah.
really start getting them.
Yeah, getting them out the door.
And but also it's a good like little commercial. I'll keep doing PSA and we'll bring, I put it on the agenda for outreach and communications too.
Perfect.
McCarter's Pond is the next item on the agenda. Last time I talked to, maybe it was something later, last time I talked to Teresa, she hasn't gotten back to me in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah, I think.
It
that
was
we-
moving along.
Yeah, there, so Avakian was the selected vendor. I know I reviewed that with you guys, who supported that, and they responded immediately. And they proposed an action plan right away. There's the site visit this week, if it maybe even happened today. The specs are being developed, and the site visit is just to check that there's the specs that it would go out to bidders, don't need any additional tweaking of some kind. But at the council meeting last night, the council agreed to continue to fast track it, and Teresa felt confident in saying that she thought we could probably award the bid to the contractor before the end of this year.
That's what I heard, yeah, good. Okay, well, I can believe then that, it's moving
This is
along.
gonna happen,
Teresa is watching it and council is watching it.
yes.
It's
Can I
gonna
ask a
happen.
question real quick? We didn't get the fountain, right? Just the,
I think the aeration has to be part of it. I'll have to follow up on it because.
so my question is, my brother brought this up. Will we mess, there won't be any ice skating after we put a fountain in them, right?
Okay, well,
Would there, like, will it mess up the freezing of the pond?
Where the fountain is, you will know.
Yeah, but would it mess up the rest of the pond too, though? Like, would it make it so?
But it wouldn't be on in the winter
The
time.
area?
Good point, okay.
Yeah, no.
Because my mom, when we were growing up,
That's-
apparently they had a pond and then put a fountain in and then it became.
No.
Okay.
Deal.
Get off my computer.
that's how it's roll.
That makes sense.
Okay. Okay, moving along past that, I was satisfied before on that one. We've got the Navasink River. Brian, he's not here and we don't have a report. So, there's no discussion on it. I'm gonna move on. From that, we have item E here. This one is living shoreline. I haven't gotten an update on where things are recently.
I mean, in a certain sense, this item, except for maybe tracking it, really was on your agenda, is now moved to council. So I would think, you would want to be kept abreast of what's happening. And at the moment, I can say, there isn't anything happening. In my mind, what would be helpful is probably a communication from the commission, just inquiring as to next steps. And we could do that one of two ways. I could put it out during my report, which would just be a repeat of what I did last time. And as I said, those reports are there, they do not spark discussion and decision making. So,
I think Teresa felt that it was going to be worked inside the concept of the park and the planning thereof of living shoreline. That sound right?
what we do know is that the plans are not done. We
Right,
have all the partners we need. The DEP permitting step would be handled by our partner, which is phenomenal. We need an environmental engineer to complete the rest of the plans. And what we were talking about earlier, the Yacht Works funding earmarked for that project. Separately, I was tracking old capital allocations, and in 2017 and in 2019, there were capital allocations for Normandy, totaling 55, totaling a little bit more, but some of it was spent. Now we're at $55,420, which is added to the 22.5 from Yacht Works, which is roughly $78,000, which really might provide us with what we need to retain the remaining professional services that are required, as well as maybe put together construction documents and John's.
okay.
So, that's, and I don't know what we want to do with that. At this point, I wanted to make sure you knew what I knew. I think it's a phenomenal project. I think it has the potential to kind of put Fairhaven in a position to sort of lead the way in this type of green infrastructure. We can be a model community for other communities, which makes it something of a laboratory for planning, engineering, design, educational programs. There are layers and layers and layers of benefits. So what's in my mind is when to do this, when to start it. Right now, there are so many balls in the air. And I don't know that this body would have a feel for. I don't want this to get lost in the sauce. There's a lot of capital discussions going on. I don't know if you want me to go into this at the moment, but there's almost too much happening. And a lot of what I noticed in Fairhaven is a lot of this, people strike the match, start the project, strike the matches, and then all the matches are burning. We don't have the bandwidth, the attention to follow through and complete. That's maybe not a completely fair statement. I'm just expressing the difficulty in kind of picking and choosing what to follow through on. So, and this is an important project. So I don't really have anything else to share at this point, except I would like to hear what you guys think.
That's about what I heard, so maybe I'll talk to Teresa again and see if she has a step-by-step plan. I don't think she does.
Well, she would get that from the governing body.
Yeah,
And at the moment, I think I think what I'm going to do is just continue to identify resources to support the implementation of the project.
okay, well, we'll leave it go until we hear more. Okay, the next item was the ERI.
Probably not too much to add. Like you said, getting that consultant, I think would be our important, really next step before we can kind of really move on with it.
That should be one of the best ERIs ever.
Well, yes,
Mm-hmm.
it should. So like I say, I mean, we have a good basis to start from. It's just a matter of updating it with more relevant information. So, I mean, again, anyone has any things they would like to see in it that's not in it, shoot it all to me so I can group all that together, just so we have at least the basis of, we do identify consultant, like, hey, here's our ERI, here are the updates that we're looking to make to it. So at least they have a kind of a way to run with it. So, but I think that might be like I said, for now, read it, see what, what
It's
needs
an
to be added.
excellent document. Yeah.
Thank you.
I learned a lot.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, really just kind of reading it and what's missing and send that over. And really just kind of, I think really the next steps, like I said, if we can get a consultant together to get these updates. I think that'd be, it's not gonna be a huge list, but it'll happen a whole lot quicker if someone else is doing it.
Well, yeah,
Professional.
well, typically it is done by a professional. It's
Exactly.
not done by a
Oh, no.
volunteer on the board. We just happen to luck out. You know, I think I've given you this, guys, before, but just as a quick thumbnail overview, so you. If Fairhaven is 1,000 acres, and it's slightly more than that, but let's round it. It's 1,000 acres of roughly 100 acres of wetlands, forest, woodland, barren land, and there's another 100 acres of parks, we'll just call parks. And another 100 acres of properties that don't. Well, then let's leave that separate. So roughly 20% of the land in Fairhaven is either parks, open space, wetland, wooded, barren, all of which needs assessment, management, and attention, right, from a policy and just sort of planning and maintenance perspective. That for a little town, that's a big number. 20% does not. Then there's another, call it roughly a third of, let me say this another way, another 100 acres is roadways. It's more than that, but
More than that,
it is more. I'm trying to give
200, I think.
give you guys numbers you can, no, it's not 200, but it's 113.3, which is not easy to remember, so call it 110. But the point is, none of that is producing revenue, right? If you think in terms of tax base and how you maintain and manage, but it is all potential value added, experiential jewels. They're all potential jewels, swankers. And there's nobody mentioned the little park or entryway to Fairhaven. It's adjacent to Schwankers. You know, that might be something that could be on the radar for what to do. It is in need of attention. It has to also be our entrance. So,
Definitely in that, if we get that invasive species management plan, like the management plan of all these open spaces.
Yeah.
That could be, I mean, I'm sure that definitely would come up
yeah,
as like one of the, areas to be
the
focused
critical
on.
focus area.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, obviously we can, it's kind of a similar thing where with the ERI having items that we'd like to see updated for an invasive species management plan, what are what are different areas that we already know that need focus. I mean, that's something that we could also be putting together as well. So, if we identify and we can get a consultant to put this plan together, hey, so you're not starting from complete scratch. Here are some, here are some items to consider, and what we have identified as, important areas.
Schweikers is, by the way, vitrifying, it's solidifying. I just want to bring it to your attention. It is actually, it's pretty, it's actually urgent. I know that we don't have, it's not on the agenda tonight, so, but I want to make you aware of that. Steps need to be taken sooner than later.
The one.
At Schwenkers, it's actually solidifying.
What steps need to be
Yes.
taken?
It's
This is a
turning into a meadow.
professional Would have to, but it's probably more of a dredging thing, I think.
There might be, what about, is there any state funding for dredging?
Yeah, there is, that size pond, it's a little difficult, it doesn't tend to, anyway. It's definitely within your purview, it's an area of concern, there's actually limited window of action, otherwise, the intervention becomes that much more expensive. So, the other thing I wanted to share with you is that the natural area reached out to Monmouth County Park System. And they identified invasive species last year as a top concern, and they made their annual report, which was very helpful. It galvanized the attention of the governing body. Again, I encourage you to think about doing that. But the main takeaway was the issue around invasive species. And I know I brought that to all the various commissions and there was agreement around it. There was a little internal problem administratively using Zoom for. It doesn't matter. So but it's certainly a priority. And when you do your roundtable, it might be good to share that information. I'm sure the natural area will be happy to. It doesn't replace any of the work that this commission would need to do in terms of management plan, but it will enhance. Or you can see for yourselves, maybe there is something where just needs rounding out, but it could be complete in your assessment. So, there's some good work going on.
Okay, so then we are up at item G, the rain gardens, and I think we may have had that discussion basically during the course of the other.
No, I mean, there's updates with that. Like I said, unfortunately, I think the Knollwood Green Team kind of got together a little bit later to plan it. They have a date, it's the end of October to plant, which unfortunately isn't really a great time to be doing any sort of seeding or herbaceous planting. But we were talking about at least putting in like some of the shrubs because those can go in this time of year. I think the question right now is, I think Knollwood does have potentially some grant funding left, but and Brian was trying to find out from them if they, I mean, it's really only maybe like less than $200 for the plants, but I don't know if they have grant money left, but I need to find out soon because if they don't have it, then I have to get it over so we can get the money together for it. But I think it might be just split where as long as it works out, doing the shrubs the end of this month and then having a spring planting event where we can seed and put in the herbaceous stuff. So then, but plan that early since this event unfortunately was planned a little bit too late to do all of it.
We have money in our budget.
No, I know we have money, but the thing is Knollwood, since it's at their school, there was a grant that they had money from, and I don't know if they have money left. There was talk that there could be money left from that. So then we wouldn't have to worry about using our money. So I'm just trying to find that out.
Jesse, I do think that Emma, last time I spoke to the student who received that grant, Emma, she said she had about $200 left that she was going to donate.
So if they have that, I mean, I don't know who needs to see the invoice or whatnot. I know Brian had offered to pick up the plants, but I haven't officially gone in there to, officially press okay with the, to add everything to purchase. So I don't know if there's someone else that should be doing that. I can forward it to them.
Why don't you do that and press OK, see if they need more money beyond the 200 and we'll contribute it. So that they can get started.
I'll email you. The reason I know is because Emma came to a Green Team meeting and mentioned it the other day. So I could put you in touch with her, Jesse. Also, I know they were supposed to work today to weed out the garden, but the moderator was out sick. So when that date is, anybody that wants to volunteer to help, I know we had some people, some on the Green Team that wanted to volunteer to help, or anyone that showed up. I can also send a message out if anybody from the EC wants to show up and help.
Yeah, I think the date for their planning event, that it's only gonna be like 20 shrubs. It's on the 20, I think it's Wednesday, the 26th, I believe, and it's like right after school is the plan. So, yeah.
That's not far off. Doing his time to buy them all.
I mean, it's just a matter of who's paying for it, and then it's literally going online and literally uploading the invoice for it and paying for it, so.
Yeah, just let me know if it's gonna be us, because we can't order it without it.
Oh, I know that, that's the thing, I know that, yeah, exactly, so, I know, that's why I'm like, someone please tell me, where is money coming from? Who's paying for this?
Money that not come before purchasing.
We're gonna, that's on the outreach, just as a sidebar, it's on the outreach communications agenda. Meg and I talked about that people really need to know that process. And so the plan is to just write it out, because I know everybody at Borough knows how to do it. but it does get kind of lost in translation.
But even knowing how long it actually takes, so we know for better planning too. So it's like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, if we have to pay for it, it's not, this planning, then it's not happening.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So look for that. And I wanted to know, so who's gonna be at this environmental roundtable from the commission?
The environmental one,
The
I think it's
roundtable?
in
roundtable, okay.
And Kelly
And Kelly?
from the green team, it sounds like.
Okay,
Not-
I
not-
really want to encourage you to figure out a way for Jesse to come if your schedule can accommodate it.
I know this.
I haven't heard any dates for it or
I
any,
think it's. the
or any
18th.
program for it.
It's been scheduled for the 18th, that I scheduled it at the direction of you and Brian.
If anyone's like,
And I was instructed to invite the chairs of Natural Field Advisory, natural,
Yeah,
there's this, you know, like
natural area.
The group we set up, yeah.
planning and zoning, shade tree.
Planning and zoning.
Yeah.
Just to chair a historic, just to get, consensus. It's gonna be a bicentennial hall at 5 o'clock Tuesday.
It'd be a
the
good
18th.
opportunity to
In
continue the
person only.
discussion we just had.
So, is there an agenda?
Not yet,
Will you be preparing that agenda?
Brian.
AKA is probably gonna ask me.
Yeah,
Which-
I want to again, stress, I think it's very important that Jesse is there.
Make it at that time.
Can you do that?
I don't know again, so.
And I also think, and then I'll keep my thoughts to myself after this, you might want to circulate the agenda in advance.
Oh, yeah, that should be good.
That's a lot of people. If
It's
everyone-
5 to 8 p.m. and the agenda should have gone out by now. Brian was gonna address that today. So,
I haven't heard from him and I'm not attending either. It's,
You're not there either?
no, I was not instructed to. It was just, supposed to be just a roundtable discussion from what I was told to do.
Thank you for mentioning that. I just want to, it's really wonderful to bring everyone together. I want to make sure everyone feels it's been a fruitful use of their time. So circulating the agenda might give others a chance to add something to it as well.
I'm just asking the other groups, what would you like to, is there anything on your mind you'd like to discuss?
I believe the email is, that I sent said, I can send it to you. The Environmental Commission would like to host a roundtable discussion to discuss the areas of needs in town from an environmental perspective, and we would love your input.
Yeah, but it doesn't include the public. This is,
Just to the chairs of the commissions in town.
I don't think the public was, the intention, I think, was to coordinate with the other commissions and councils and boards and what have you. I don't think the public was involved, expected to be. Right, is that your understanding?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was what I was told
Fine.
to set up.
who's going to run that meeting?
Pardon me?
Who's going to run that meeting?
Brian is,
Brian is going to run that meeting?
Yeah.
Got it.
if he were here tonight, we'd be better off.
Do you guys want a couple minutes on the planning board? There's a couple things I could say and keep it brief.
Probably, yeah, be a good idea. When is it?
So, the biggest thing we've dealt with since I've been on the board is the Sunoco station. There's gonna be a multifamily housing project that's going up. A lot of back and forth with the developer. There's I think it's a New Jersey law that if you build a parking lot with a certain number of parking spaces, it has to have an EV charging station. So I believe that's gonna be there. There's talk about, in the process, there's talking about drainage. There's talk of the shade tree. It seems like there's a little bit of, not quid pro quo, but there's back and forth where developers can get approval if they agree to plant trees.
Sure.
And it made me think after hearing the discussion today, it might be worthwhile for us to put together a best practices to give to developers. Like, hey, if you're gonna do something, use permeable pavement, or maybe thought about a rain garden, or maybe it's in lieu of trees, or like what things could they do, or a pollinator path or something. I think that might be useful. I'd be happy to bring it to the planning.
Yeah, we've been talking about putting something like that together
Oh,
for the planning board. So, yeah, no, exactly. And like, there is already kind of a document out there that was something to really just kind of pull from for that. It kind of came out of the whole, with the new stormwater ordinance, like in the state, there was like a white paper that came out that kind of had some just additional measures that could be added on, which some towns adopted, to incorporate them into their plans, like their ordinances. Whereas others, it's, could be kind of just recommendations we're talking about would be, a really great thing for us to put together for you to bring to the planning board, so that you can kind of, as you're having these discussions, kind of bring up, here's the things we recommend.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know they're not gonna do everything, but I think the more we start being able to, recommend those practices, some people are very amenable to doing that.
Sure. Yeah, so
Just for the residents.
the developers that I've interacted with, they don't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's our community too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, absolutely.
Was it up for vote in our council or in our town to have that as part of our ordinances, or?
It was at the time, but the governing body at that time, I attended them. Actually. And I asked if the environmental commission had provided any guidance, because, and I would dismiss it. But anyway, there were sort of layers of regulatory guidance that you could adopt. We adopted the minimum sort of baseline standards.
Yeah, which is what I think municipalities.
It's a weird place to start, and
No, absolutely. I mean, so we all had to, adopt it anyway, but at the very minimum for like, I can at least give you the white paper that kind of has all the additionals, and then maybe we can condense it down to just like a simple, like, 1 page or something like that, that can be kind of brought into the discussions, so.
And Jesse, just to add on a little bit to that, there is something that we've talked about, just like the green development checklist, right? If you were to have and bring up to like planning, that it's almost like that 1 pager where developers just check off. It doesn't mean that they have to do it, but right, it's just that they're thinking about it, and it could be, but I have a sample copy of that from Sustainable Jersey as well that I could share with you, and we can work on, bring it up.
Yeah, so maybe getting that combined with like the items from kind of like the white paper, then we can have our own official checklist as like our, for the planning board.
Sure.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, that'd be great. I think they should be considering all, especially the rain gardens and that, even just having native plants
Sure.
incorporated, the rain gardens, native plants, all that good pollinator plants. I mean, if they're still talking about plans for that, then all that definitely should be brought up and
I think
recommended.
it's largely done now, from our standpoint,
Right.
planning board,
Mhm.
those other parts.
It's not a huge piece of property.
No,
No, but any new piece that's gonna be
a
developed.
bee
it
only
should
needs
be-
one flower,
that's right.
Mhm.
Right.
How tall is it?
3 stories, I believe. So it's retail on the bottom and then 2. I think it's 2. Is it 1 or 2? Yes, 2.
Two.
Yeah,
2 stories above.
And there's a lot of talk about the height with the facade.
Yeah.
And wait
Well,
and see.
even too, I mean, whoever winds up being like the owners of the building and the businesses, it could be even brought to them too, like, hey, as you're, you have your, whatever you have to take care of maintenance wise, here's some things to consider
Yeah.
management wise,
I'd be happy to share that with them.
yeah,
Most of which are maintenance free.
Right.
yeah,
And
exactly.
native is
Parking will be outside and
outside of the back.
Stacked.
that's a
I'm
mistake.
saying there's some parking underneath the building too.
I was
because
hoping
retail. There's a little bit of that, but most of the parking is. in the
Well, it's
back.
still at grade, Ralph, not under. It's at grade.
Yes, it is accurate.
The back is cantilevered, so the parking is at grade, but under the cantilevered second floor.
It's 15 to 20 units, 17, I think. That's not right.
I thought it was 14, but yeah, something like that, down a little bit.
You know, if this information, Terry, is available because it's being discussed at council meetings, for example, somehow we've got to get the local papers in town, Two River Times.
There was a reporter there.
Yeah.
Well,
this was pretty
boy, they
good.
don't do a good
I
job.
think I got quoted.
But
I got quoted.
This particular
That's
issue
what-
was.
I missed it. I didn't think anything.
I think I saw the title, but I don't think I read the article.
The quotes were great.
Or I should have read it. I mean, I thought.
Oh, another thing is they're gonna, the underground tank is addressed.
Yeah,
Oh,
there was
there was
underground
that,
tank there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's everything kind of cleaned up. I'm like, we don't be done now.
Now, this is
Oh,
good.
that's gone?
Yeah, oh, yeah, they remediated it. They had to remediate before they did anything, so.
One of the things, I don't know if you guys don't understand about this, is that, this is the type of intensification that is now allowed in certain other areas of the business district. So I know personally, I'm thinking about, intelligent and thoughtful things which are available to, whether it's design guidelines or, there's a handful of tools available, but we certainly want to provide affordable housing. Responsibility. But I also think we have to be intelligent and thoughtful about not compromising quality of life and completely altering the business district.
Yes, there's a lot of, it's very diplomatically stated.
I do have stronger feelings.
And there are more buildings coming, more multifamily. Based on the state.
Is it
pressure.
mostly in the business district or?
I think it's just by the town, we have to have so many affordable units, and it's a big number, like,
Yeah.
we had to do 4 by,
Are we actually going to get to the number?
well, it's something like 260, if I remember right, it's a big number, we just did 4 or 5 or 6 out of single digits.
Well, just
And-
to clarify, so what happens is you negotiate that number based on realistic potential.
Yeah.
And the realistic potential here in Fairhaven is significantly lower than what is required by the formulation, right? Yeah, there's no developable
Yeah.
area. That's the reason that we ended up with this overlay district that would provide for the opportunity for mixed use. Our obligation is met until 2025
Yes.
with this current and the Habitat for Humanity houses. And then in 2025, there'll be another round.
Are we, that have the Habitat for Humanity houses been built?
No, not yet.
It sure feels, I agree with you, maintaining the town and business district, but it feels like it's being forced on us, is the vibe I'm getting, but.
Well, yeah, I think particularly the
is.
planning board
We wouldn't
took
do
the
it
brunt
now.
of that pressure.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, it was very.
Unfortunately, because I know that some of it felt like it wasn't the right, not that affordable housing isn't right, but the form and shape of the way we're delivering affordable housing
Right.
feels like almost a betrayal of the way we think of our small town. So.
Doesn't, I mean, this also, and this is just speaking from somebody who's not, not so knowledgeable about the subject, but, a lot of this affordable housing, what about with knocking down smaller homes and building these huge homes on it? I mean, is that part of, like, are we eliminating that type of affordable housing? And this is another conversation. I mean, it's not part right now.
Well,
That's
that's a category unto so-called affordability, right? By keeping some building footprints, allowing for zones that maintain smaller bungalows and cottages without the potential for a larger building envelope, you kind of control affordability somewhere, but the market ultimately would dictate the value and therefore what someone would be willing to pay. That doesn't help us meet the
Sure.
affordable
Okay.
housing.
And now, just quick, on that one property though, there's a couple, I think there's some big trees on the side there. Does that have any?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those come down if I remember correctly, but that's part of the Shade Tree Commission, where the developer has to fund the planting of replacement trees, basically. I don't know if it's.
Okay.
But that's It's part of the deal.
It's truly unfortunate because the business district does not have a lot of large mature trees, especially where you move from commercial to residential, which is exactly what happens there. You have a two-family immediately adjacent to what is now going to be a mixed use.
Yeah.
But I really, again, another unfortunate collateral, really. The folks that live there are gonna have a completely
A lot
different
more traffic.
life. Yeah.
And maybe that's also something that I know, on our priority list, but I think increasing the shade cover and the tree cover of that business district and that whole area, even, Third Street Park and, just thinking long-term, how we can try to add to that canopy cover and, adding
Yeah.
more tree species.
Canopy
There's
habitat,
three
the
trees.
ecosystem, like we.
Right.
Think bigger than just canopy. We know how intricate and beautiful that ecosystem is, and it's many things. It's habitat and diversity, and we should be striving for that, in my opinion. Yeah. Well, this meeting has taken an interesting twist.
Thanks for,
Lovely to talk to all.
yeah, thanks for bringing, I think that honestly, we should be having kind of you should be providing kind of anything from the planning board that's kind of come up that you need to get our opinions on. And if there's anything that we need to see too, that, it would be important to help provide feedback on, I think that'd be super important.
You could add that to your agenda.
It should be on the
Yeah.
I
agenda,
agree.
definitely.
Do we have anyone
Sure.
else on any of the other committees on?
Oh, right. Do you have a public, is anyone got their hand up?
Oh, we moved to that portion of the meeting.
I guess we are now.
Well, sorry. It's just-
I know.
Under new business, I just have something to add. The borough will be printing their 2023 calendars in November. So at your November meeting, we will need the EC to vote on their 2023 date and time. You've been really holding in at the second Wednesday of the month at 7:30. Is that something like to
That's-
continue? You can let me know next month if you want to discuss it. Just look at the dates.
We can discuss it right now or not at all, basically. So let's do it. There's a state 7:30 on Wednesday night, so that's actually,
I'm fine with it.
I'd leave
The
it go.
second Wednesday of the month.
It hasn't proven to have any problems this last 2 years, so I'd say let's let it go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Done.
I have a couple of things before we leave. One is I'm going to be retiring as chairman in January. And I will stay on planning on the board. But I've gotten a few, too many other things going on. And I also don't think they want an 88-year-old chairman.
Oh, I don't know about that.
So, that I'm going to say, I've talked to the mayor and I've talked to Teresa. And I'll be retiring, but I'll be staying on for the next 2 years of my term. And I'll be available to work diligently on whatever plans I'm asked to work on.
Matthew, such a tremendous asset.
Well, it's been
Fair
fun.
even.
Absolutely.
I
A
think
lot of fun.
it's some, what is the total number of years of your service? I'm very-
You know, I'm not sure. It's more than 10, I know
I
that.
think
It's probably
Feels
12.
like 20.
No, actually, I look forward to it. Great deal. I
Well,
really do.
very grateful.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so we have another meeting. We have the meeting on the 20th or 18th. At 5 p.m., 5 to 8 p.m. that you talked about. Then we have a meeting in November. We have to decide whether we want the December meeting or not. I'm inclined to think we need it. It's, I think, December 16th, second Wednesday. Second Wednesday. So think about, we'll discuss it in November
I won't
meeting.
be here in November meeting. I'll be away, so my vote is for the December meeting.
Okay. My vote is for the December meeting also. I think we need that.
And you're also asking me to schedule a November meeting with Rich and Nick, Rich and or,
Yeah.
correct?
Well, I didn't speak up, but I don't know if this matters to you guys. It's a really busy time of year. I noticed like seasonally, people's attention sort of turns into the family and other things. And it's such an important topic, the pocket parks. I don't know the right thing, but I would suggest it might be hard to get the kind of participation that is warranted.
Maybe beginning of the year then, we
Maybe
should kind of
beginning
shoot for it after the holidays.
It might be tough to squeeze it in during November, December, because, yeah.
Teachers convention,
There's
Thanksgiving.
so
Yeah,
much.
that's true.
Yeah,
I think if, as long as we can get it within like the first quarter of next year.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that'd be starting off the year with that and
That's a-
something,
that's a good way to
honestly,
think about
I
it.
think that's something that we should be looking to do then.
I don't think
Okay.
if we delay it, I don't think it's gonna slow anything down.
No, but I mean, we all need to hear about it, but I think as long as we kind of keep it in the forefront, if we keep that in the first quarter, I think that would be,
So in December, I'll schedule it for
The
teachers.
plans are really quite modest.
yeah, but I think we still need to see it and see
Yeah.
the right comment on it.
Hasn't it been distributed though?
No, it has
No.
never come to this body.
Okay, I've seen it, but,
You have, well,
Yeah.
you're next door to it.
no, I thought maybe it had been,
Because.
It might have been.
Yeah.
It's on the website.
you can ask.
It
to
wasn't
see it.
officially, it wasn't officially brought to us, no, as
No,
an
no.
item to be.
Which.
You can ask
Specifically
Allison for the
that
plans,
much.
anybody.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll wait till January for that then.
Sure.
And other than that, if there's no objection,
Public comment.
is there any public comment?
If you would like to speak, please raise your hand and I will bring you over. We have Bonnie Torsivia bringing you over. Bonnie?
Yep.
Hi.
Hi, Ralph, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Glenn.
You've really done so much for our town and we really do appreciate it. And you deserve to retire at 88. I hope it's wonderful. And I hope that you get to retire next to a beautiful new pocket park.
Right next to me, it's part of my backyard
Right
already.
next to you, yes. And I really do hope at some point with talking about those pocket parks, that a drawing, a rendering, something can be done so that people can understand exactly what is going to happen there. Everybody, I mean, as I've said, I've looked at these plans. I can't read those engineering plans. I don't know that many people can. So we can't really see what the plan is, but it would just be so important for those to be taken in conjunction with the living shoreline and all of these beautiful, I mean, we're so lucky to have this riverfront property and do it right. We need to do it properly. And I love that Jessie is, an expert here and I, like to hear her voice and I do hope that with all these, there is this green development checklist. I mean, I think it's so important for the Environmental Commission to start being consulted and, have a voice in these really important developments in town and over, watching over our open space and our parks and our, our riverfront. So keep up the good work, make a plan. I hope this roundtable really comes up with some joint focus for, all of these environmental commissions, the environmental team in this town, and you all start communicating and helping each other. And, I was on the Natural Area Advisory meeting just before this. I just was on for half an hour and there was a report. Dick Fuller, who's on their team, walked through with the Monmouth Park System and they did a report for them about the invasives and a plan and a maintenance recommendation, which I think they will share with everybody. And I believe the woman who did it for the park system lives in Rumson. And Anna Luton, that was the name I heard. So it might be super convenient to have her come over and give us more advice. Anyway, thank you so much.
Okay, good night.
Thanks, Bonnie. Anyone else have a question? Please raise your hand. No other questions.
Okay,
There is I think to Bonnie's point, there are no renderings and it isn't easy, but if Richard Naker is here and I know how to read them. We can certainly articulate between hardscape and undisturbed. It is difficult to read. And there is no not much of a landscape plan and there's not, there aren't specified plantings and. It's largely an engineered set of drawings,
Yeah.
just so you guys know that going in, we have time to talk.
It
about
would be easy to construct, because all the information is there. It would be easy for them to construct a view of the park from the water, which would show most of its attributes, more than if you did from the street.
Yeah,
Remember, it's got hedges on both sides. It's not very, it's 40 and a half,
yeah,
only 40 and a half foot wide. So, if you want that, if you think that'd be helpful, I think we could get Rich to, or Nick to create that. And what you'd be looking at is how they handle this storm sewer pipe. You'd be looking at the stairs, you go down, you'd see the stairs going down to the beach.
yeah.
You'd see the platform that they're building. You would see the seating room, the park benches.
My thought honestly is, there hasn't been any public input on these at all. So if, I wouldn't want to see him spend time on drawings just in case that public input results in modifications. So might be worth it to try to muddle through with the drawings that exist along with the, they're walking us through it.
Yeah,
And
you're
see
right.
what comes up from the public. There's been no, and it's a public waterfront, so we should flush out some of the issues maybe before we do drawings.
I think the one on the end of Grange is probably less well developed. Just looking at the plans. I'm not quite sure they really know what they're gonna do with the steep slopes over there.
There's a big switchback to it's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it sort of looks like this is the way it may look, but
yeah.
it's not as complete a plan in my view as the one on Hants Road.
Yeah, lots to talk about with these. I don't know if you want to get into it now. Because of course, the living shoreline over at Normandy and having that understanding can really inform the way we look at what the kids in town call Pirate Beach. And they know it as Pirate Beach because it's a place of when they get down there. Well, first they have to pass through that trove of trees and natural area that feels totally different than the street that they probably came to. I love that sort of stuff. That's all the spirit of placemaking, but the kids love it because it feels like they're worlds away. And
Every
Yeah.
weekend, there's 2 or 3 kayakers who use the Hants Road Park.
yeah,
And they had heard that there was going to be a park. It's not Health Park. They had heard it's going to be a park and they wanted to know what the provisions were so that they could easily bring their kayaks down, and put them in the water.
there's no
I said,
provision.
I don't think so. But
But so that should come out in the
I said,
conversation.
where else in town would we bring our kayaks in the water? I said,
Baton or Normandy.
Baton Road is.
Which
most-
is
almost
Normandy, I
allowed to
think
do that.
people do that too.
I'm sorry, there's one more question that just came on. Stephanie Adams.
I will be, hi, I'll be so quick. I was having trouble following on this roundtable. It is open to the public or it's not open to the public, and I apologize. I just was having trouble.
Well, look, I don't want to say it's not open to the public. On the other hand, we're not going to advertise it widely because it's basically an opportunity for the Environmental Commission and the other boards to meet and greet one another, to talk about their plans, to talk about how they should interact, that kind of thing. And it hasn't gotten to the stage where there's anything that can be presented that looks in the least bit polished to the public. It will look very unpolished, in fact. It will look like we're just starting to get things rolling between the boards, which is the truth, we are.
Right.
So I'm not sure I really want the public to be there. I don't think it'd be very valuable to them.
Well, since Stephanie's on the phone, if Stephanie wants to come.
I'm actually not, surprisingly not available. I was just curious because I was in and out, and so I wasn't sure what the format was, but I understand this is a first step, a meet and greet, everybody try to get on the same page to then make plans.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Steph.
Oh, my goodness, it's fine.
Stephanie, I wish
Just
you could
because
come, you'd add something to it.
It's not public, you would add to it, Steph.
Totally.
But because it's not technically advertised open to the public, also doesn't mean that those folks who are initiating the roundtable are attempting to exclude anyone. Is that fair? Yeah, so if there are folks who want to come, would that be okay? Would that be acceptable?
And, you know, this would be like, just to use a parallel, inviting the professors and the faculty to your first outline discussion of your doctoral thesis. You wouldn't do it.
That's fair. And I also wanted to thank you, Ralph, for all of your service, for all the wonderful things that you've done, and for always being so supportive of the green team. We really appreciate it.
Well, I think they're terrific. I really
Thanks.
do. I really do.
Bye, Steph.
Delighted.
Anyone else?
Okay,
All
we'll
right.
see y'all, and we'll see you in November if you're here and
Yeah.
away on vacation, swimming in the Caribbean.
Yeah.